Hi, I'm Bridget A. from Drunk Dog Creative, and in today's tutorial, I'm going to show you how to make the Christmas is in the Air card. The hero of this card is a set of designer series papers from Stampin' Up! Called Nests of Winter. They're available in a product suite, but they're also available on their own. And before we get into the nitty-gritty of how to make the card, I want to show you a couple of really unique features of this. I've also used the Peaceful Season stamp and die set for the sentiments. This is a set of photopolymer stamps and corresponding dies that will give you labels and shapes that go with them, or the word Christmas and a background for Christmas, which is what I used here instead of the stamps. So that's the set that I've used from Stampin' Up! That's a current set to do the sentiments on this card. I've also decorated the inside of the card with the same stamp set, a sentiment from there. But I want to talk about these birds. Now, the Winterly Treetops die and stamp bundle is part of that suite. And it is a bunch of dies and some corresponding rubber stamps. Now, the great thing about these is, as you can see from the front, the sentiments make this usable all year round, not just for Christmas. But the dies have a unique feature. These two bird dies will actually cut out the birds on this paper. It'll cut the red robin out, it'll cut the little bluebirds out on this paper, and it's all double-sided paper. So this is in this paper pack, and that's where I got the red bird for the inside. The rest of the suite has some really interesting papers, and I've combined a few of them to make this card. So all of the DSP, all of the pattern papers are from the suite. Including that one. What I've done with the birds is I've taken another of the 12 by 12 sheets. I've got a scrap of it left. And I've taken my 1 3/4 inch circle punch. And you know, we tend to do it upside down so we can see exactly what we're punching. And I used it to punch out the circle of the birds, whatever bird I wanted on the cards. And I just simply punched it out into a circle, and then I took my 2-inch punch and I cut out 2-inch circles of the Cherry Cobbler cardstock, and that's how I've made these little designs for the front. So I've used my punch. Now you can use a die, you can use whatever you want, but this paper is perfect for circle punching each of the little birds out, and this paper is perfect for die cutting with 2 of the dies from this set. So that's just to give you a bit of background. Let's talk about how we've made these cards now. So I'm going to move into the cut plan, and I'm going to show you all the pieces. You're going to start with a piece of Cherry Cobbler, or whatever color scheme you decide on. While my measurements in this video are in metrics, I'll put the imperial measurements in the subtitles, because in Australia we use an A6 card, which is based on our A4 paper, but in America you use an A2 card, which is based on your letter size paper. So the card sizes themselves are slightly different. So I can't just use a converter to convert metrics. I have to design the cards in 2 whole systems. But as you can tell by my American voice, even though I live in Australia, I can work in both systems. So the subtitles will be there, and full details and written instructions are on the blog at drunkdogcreative.com. All right, let's get into this. Your card base is 210 millimeters wide by 148 millimeters tall, scored at 105 and folded in half. The next thing is your card, the front mat, which for this I've used shaded spruce, and this is 100 millimeters wide by 143 millimeters tall, and it layers on the card front. Then I've taken a piece of the DSP from that Nests of Winter designer series paper. Again, it's all double-sided. There's quite a few sheets and lots of designs, but one of them is this beautiful birchwood design. And I've cut this at 95 millimeters wide by 138 millimeters tall. And that then just layers onto the shaded spruce, which layers onto the Cherry Cobbler to make the basis of your card front. The other pieces I've cut are optional. I've done an inside mat that is 100 millimeters wide and 143 millimeters tall, the same as the front mat. And that will go on the inside. And I tend to layer my insides with as many or almost as many layers as the front so that it has enough weight to balance when it's propped up. The other thing I did is I took a piece of basic white thick cardstock and I cut it the same as the DSP, 95 millimeters wide by 143 millimeters, 138 millimeters tall. And that layers over the green. And what I did, and I should have probably done this on camera, but I'm trying to save time to keep the videos short because people prefer them shorter. I stamped another saying from this Peaceful Season stamp and die set. And then I die cut the Red Robin with the dies from the Winterly Treetop set and pasted them there and left the rest to write. But that's totally optional. You can do whatever you want. But that's what I've done for the inside. The other thing I did is I took some scraps of gray granite cardstock because I thought it went very well with the darker gray in the birchwood paper. So I cut out of Cherry Cobbler the word Christmas from this die. And out of the gray granite, I cut the background with that die. And that gave me, and then I used some glue to glue one on top of the other. And I put 2 dimensionals on the back to lift it off the page a little. This is a very tiny piece of gray granite. This is only 8 millimeters wide, and it was 68 or 70 millimeters long. And I stamped the is in the air stamp with Cherry Cobbler. And then I just took scissors and cut the ends at an angle for interest. You can do this however you want, but then they work together for a nice saying for the card front. So that's your cut plan. Let's talk about how to assemble this. This is very straightforward and very simple. And the first thing I'm going to do, is glue my circle punched birds onto my circle punched Cherry Cobbler. Now I've offset them. Normally you'd put them in the middle with an even border all around. And I kind of thought for a little more interest, I would just offset it. So whichever one I wanted to be my top bird, I pushed over and just left a very thin margin at the left. And whichever I wanted to be my bottom bird, I pushed over and left a thin margin at the right. So that when they're together on the page, they kind of have a little more visual interest. You can see how I've done it on these two using different birds. So I put the kind of browny orange ones together and the gray white ones together, but you can do whatever you want. But they're just offset a little from the circle underneath. So that's the first thing I'm going to suggest, is that you put those together and you glue your word onto your background so that it's dry and ready to go when we get to that stage. Now this is just optional decoration, but if you're going to use the twine like I did on here, then you want to do this before you glue this to the mat. So put your birds kind of where you think you're going to put them. So I have one near the top and the left and one near the top and the bottom. And I'm just going to hold a piece of this twine so that I can get the length. I want it to overlap each end just a little. And then I'm going to triple it. So I'm going to just run along its length twice more. So that and this twine comes in the Nests of Winter Sweet too, in a few different colors. And then I'm going to snip it. So now what I've got is a triple layer of twine, and I just twirl it a little or leave it. And I'm just going to see, I want it placed kind of through the middle of where I'm going to put that bird. So I'm going to leave my finger there, take the bird away, move the twine over, and I'm just going to put a little bit of Stampin' Seal, preferably tape rather than glue, because you want this to kind of stick. Sorry, this is very cushiony, and the Stampin' Seal doesn't work good on the cloth. So I can see where I put it, so I'm just going to put something a little harder. There we go. Then what I'm going to do is put this twine just so that it sticks in that one spot. And then I'm going to take my glue and I'm going to put that bird in place. Just squirt a little on and then run it all around. Stick it back on its cap. I'm going to use it again in a sec. Oh, wrong bird. Wow, I'm having an interesting day today. And then I'm just going to put that bird in place. You're going to need a wet wipe if you use this glue because it's super, super tacky. And even a damp rag or a wet wipe don't always get it off your hands, and then it gets on everything. Then what I'm going to do is flip this over. I'm just going to put a little bit of tape there, a little bit of tape there, and I'm going to take these ends and, I don't know if you can see this, and just pull it over and stick it onto that tape. Now that means the back of this will still be a little bit sticky, and that's okay. The next thing I'm going to do then is put my glue, which has already started to dry. Just put a little more on the back of my other bird. And then I'm going to put it in place down near the bottom. And if you do get some glue where you don't want it, let it dry and use a glue eraser to take it off. And I'll demonstrate that in a minute. Oh, that stuff is sticky. Okay, so once you've done that, you can then put the tape. There we go. Now it's working properly. This is a soft mat underneath, and the tape usually needs a slightly harder surface. Anyways, I'm now that that ribbon or twine is on, I am going to center this on the garden green, sorry, the spruce, the shaded spruce background. I'm getting everything mixed up today. This time of year can be a little overwhelming with everything that we have to do. Then I'm going to put this on the card front. And this is when I like to use a grid to help line things up, but I'm getting really good at doing this. Okay. Cap back on. Then the next step that I would do is I would take my Christmas and is in the air, and I would put both in place wherever you want them. So I've angled them here because I think it gives it a nice little look. So I've got that and that angled. And then I'll lift this one up first, and I'll just take the backings off the dimensionals. And I'll put that back in place. And then I'll do the same with the other one. I use the mini dimensionals on this one because the normal dimensionals are a little bit too big. So then I've got my sentiments there, put that down a little. And then the last thing I'm going to add there is a mini glue dot for the bow. So I'm going to take my pick, and I'm going to find the next glue dot on the backing, and I'm going to pull it up with that, and I'm going to place it just right there on the twine without pulling it up. And then I've made a little tiny bow out of a double layer of twine. Oh, I think I pulled the glue dot off. All right, well, I'm going to put the glue dot on the back of the bow since it's being stubborn. And then I'm going to stick the bow right onto that twine so that there's a little bow there. And that's the front of the card done, unless you want to add some optional extras, which I'll do in a minute. Then I'm going to go to the inside, and I've already stamped this and affixed my little bird. So I'm going to just take my Stampin' Seal and put that on the mat. Again, this is optional. You can do this however, you don't have to mat it. You can just put white in there. You can do it however you want. You don't have to decorate it. And that's the inside of your card done, and the outside. the last option you have is to add some adhesive-backed embellishments. Now these are the ones, this is the Earth Tones Shimmer Gems. They come with the Nests of Winter suite. And as you can see, they're kind of earth tones, so you can use them for occasions other than Christmas. But they've got these perfect green ones here that I'm just going to pick and put just a couple of these on. You don't want too many. Less is more. You've heard that expression before. I'm going to take my pick. So I'm going to just put a big one kind of in the corner there. Usually I use the putty end. It needs more putty. I'm going to put a little one up there, and I might put just one more little one. Oh, I'm going to go against my own rule and balance it out more. So I've put just a few little of those dimensionals on it. You can use anything or you can leave it off. But that is your Christmas is in the Air Christmas card, using the Nests of Winter Designer Series paper from Stampin' Up. Simple to put together, very effective, and I think really pretty. So happy making!